Good evening. Hey, guys. How y'all doing? This is Chappy at Chap's Fantasy Chat, brought to you by Dr. Roto at drroto.com. Get your daily prescription of fantasy sports at Dr. Roto. Listen, guys, this is kind of a cool night. It's kind of it's tough. It's tough when you have a what you thought was a dynasty, and you see guys get traded away that were supposed to be, retire with your team. And I'm speaking directly about Rizzo. And you guys that know me, you know that I am I've been boycotting the Cubs all year because they're blacked out in my area. I don't like the way the team has been run. They've said they're going to do this all year. So I kind of got ahead of that as far as that's concerned. I'm still a Cubs fan at heart, though. It's going to be interesting seeing Rizzo with the Yankees. I think that's a really good move. Both the moves that the Yankees just made were good moves. You look at that short portion left and right field at Yankee Stadium, and both of those guys really fit the mold of what you're looking for in a left-handed power hitter at that stadium. And I think it's going to be very fortuitous for Rizzo, and as much as it will be for Gallo, and that makes the Yankees really good. But as a Cubs fan looking back on it, all the games that you watch, going through the World Series, seeing all these, the highs and the lows, if you will, with these players, whether it's Rizzo, Bryant, Baez, not so much Kimbrel because he was brought in external, but that core has been around a long time, and to see those guys traded off really speaks to a poor job of management by the Cubs brass to keep those guys there, to build around them. You think about the trades they've made. They haven't made good trades to help supplant that team, give them more talent around that nucleus. They've taken talent away from those guys. You think about this isn't going to be a Chicago Cubs rant, but I do want to feel like, I do want to wax poetic just a little bit on this, because they could have had Eloy Jimenez. They could have had Dylan Cease. They could have had, Gleyber Torres. They could have had all these players that have turned out to be, some good, Jorge Soler. Some good, they gave away Jorge Soler for Mike Montgomery, guys. So, that just goes to show you when all these moves are being made. And I'll tell you, initial look at the haul back for Rizzo from the Yankees is a pretty good haul. The pitcher looks to be, a little bit of a late bloomer, but one of those guys who could be, a 2 or a 3 in your rotation. And then the batter certainly is another one of those guys that he's a toolsy player. He's a big guy. So we'll see. Obviously the Cubs have put themselves in this situation where they have to sell off this talent in order to bring talent back into the system. But my point of this is they did this to themselves. And now Anthony Rizzo's paying the price, and Chris Bryant's paying the price, and, Javi Baez is going to pay the price. I'm not saying you should never trade guys like that, but this is the wrong circumstances to get us to that point. I feel better. Chap's Fantasy Chat, Thursday nights at 8 on Dr. Roto. It's the trade deadline episode. This is a little bit weird. It's not there's a lot going on. And honestly, you're watching the dismantling of the Chicago Cubs. I fully anticipate by 4 o'clock tomorrow you will see all of those guys traded. Baez, Bryant, Kimbrel will all be gone. Maybe even Contreras will all be gone by 4 o'clock tomorrow. So it's been a good run with those guys, and I hopefully they bring it back up. But again, they did it to themselves by making bad moves. They won a World Series. Good for them. That's great. But they could have been better for so much longer. The Yankees, as I said, though, really have put themselves in good position for a deep run towards the World Series. And you think about, what they already had. And yes, there's some parts there that have struggled. You haven't had the consistent years from, DJ LeMahieu, and, Gary Sanchez has been good of late, but he struggled for a while. Um, some of the outfielders have struggled, whether it be Aaron Judge for a while or, of course, Stanton's always hurt. Aaron Hicks has been a failure. So bringing in two players of the stature of Rizzo and Gallo really takes, especially both of them being left-handed bats. I don't think that's being talked about enough in that stadium, the kind of impact that's going to have to that whole division, quite honestly. If you think about, if you think the Yankees are done, you're fooling yourself. They're going to go out and they're going to go after another pitcher. They're going to go out and go after Kyle Gibson or, one of these guys that, not your headliner. They're not going after Scherzer, I don't think. He wants to go out west. Barrios is probably not going there. He's rumored to be going, I can't remember where. But I feel like Gibson's makes a lot of sense in New York. Maybe a couple other, mid-tier type guys that could really, help them out with just some depth because they have really had to use a lot of arms this year. So I feel offensively the Yankees have done a great job. I feel like you put a nail in the coffin by going out and getting, quite honestly, an impact reliever and a starter, and that really puts the Yankees. Now, here's the other part of that. The Red Sox have done nothing. Sure, they were rumored in the Rizzo deal. They were rumored in, a couple other deals. They've come short. Now, the thing that the Red Sox have that other teams don't, Chris Sale. But let's not forget about what Chris Sale brings to the table when he returns. He is an ace. And the other part of it is you look at, they've brought up, Jared Duran, I've talked about for months now, but also Tanner Houck. Tanner Houck's had, I think last night or night before last, he really had a good game. He's got good numbers. They call him a right-handed Chris Sale in his approach. I will take that every day of the week. If Tanner Houck is out there on your waiver wire, they've been kind of holding his innings for the late part of the season. Now's the time to pick him up. I feel like you're really going to start seeing him be impactors, and maybe he doesn't, do your traditional 6 or 7 inning pitch, getting the decision. Maybe he comes in as an influencer and pitches the pivotal 3 or 4 innings in a big game that you get a win off of. So he's someone that I'm really looking for. At this time of year, it's hard. It's hard to get waiver wires, and we'll start doing that again. But, this was one of those weeks where I feel like you really had to talk about the trades. And not just that, talk about how that impacts who's going where. So, as far as the Cubs bringing up young players, I don't see anybody in that system that maybe Ian Happ benefits. Maybe Ian Happ benefits from these moves. I don't think Patrick Wisdom is the answer. The Alcantara kid's good defensively, but I don't think he's really too impactful offensively or fantasy wise. It'll be interesting to see what they do to fill out their roster the rest of the year. And I'm sure there might be a player or two that becomes fantasy relevant. We'll talk about that when it becomes appropriate. The big takeaway from these trades, and again, even, the Joey Gallo trade I didn't really talk about. I don't want to spend this whole time talking about the Yankees. No one wants to hear that except Yankee fans. I know Lou Landers probably wants to hear it, but that's it. The Yankees gave up a boatload, in my opinion. Lou and I differed on this last night to get Joey Gallo. I feel like they got 2 pretty solid major league players in the next year or two, and Josh Smith and Ezekiel Duran. But I also feel like the Trevor Havler kid, I know I'm butchering that last name. That's okay. He is one of those guys where maybe just hasn't gotten noticed. He was the 3-hitter behind Spencer Torkelson at Arizona State. So he's not been the most – he's got to grow into some of his power, but I feel like as a third player in this kickback, and maybe even a fourth if you consider the Otto, the pitching prospect, I think that they've done well. Okay. Duran and Smith both help the Rangers within the next year and a half. Halver and Otto are a little bit more deeper projects. But those two players help the Rangers almost immediately. So that's a win-win trade. The Yankees are really always really deep in their farm system. So they can go out and do these deals because they have players seeping from their system. Now, the other teams that can do this, two teams come to mind that can do this. The San Francisco Giants can do that. And the Tampa Bay, I almost call them the Devil Rays. The Tampa Bay Rays can do that. Both of those teams can go out and throw bukus of prospects at teams to basically get whoever the heck they want. Now, do they do it? I don't know. Both of those teams have a little bit different business model than what the Yankees do. Both of those teams are on verges of really big things organizationally. And, everybody kind of laughed, myself included, kind of laughed at Tampa Bay when they went out and traded what seemed like all their talent in the offseason, only to find them right back basically in the driver's seat in that division again this year. What could Tampa Bay use? Well, several things, if we're just being honest. Chris Bryant makes a lot of sense for Tampa Bay. Max Scherzer makes a lot of sense for Tampa Bay. Jose Barrios makes a lot of sense for Tampa Bay. Josh Donaldson makes a lot of sense for Tampa Bay. Point being, if they want to go out and execute a move, they can go and get whoever they want. Did you see? I'll tell you a sneaky move. Seattle, after giving up both of their high leverage closers in Montero and Graveman, just made a move, and this won't get much publicity because of the other ones that went on, for Diego Castillo. Not real sure what the turnaround is on that, but I think it's interesting that, Seattle kind of had something in mind, and they're executing their plan. So they could be a sneaky player for some of these. Hey, Tom, welcome, brother. Good to see you. They could be a sneaky player. Names still on the board, supposedly, allegedly. Chris Bryant, Max Scherzer, Kyle Gibson, Trey Turner, Jose Barrios, Kyle Schwarber. Who does Tampa Bay go after? I think Bryant makes a lot of sense. I think Barrios makes a lot of sense. We'll see. We'll see. I see them making a strong move to go along with Nelson Cruz, who they've already got a solid power hitter at DH now. The Giants are a little bit different. Talk about the Giants going after Bryant. Talk about them giving up Joey Bart for him and another prospect. I wonder what it takes The Giants basically can do whatever they want. If I'm the Giants, I'm going after a Juan Soto type of player. Now, that cuts deep, right? You'd think, why would Washington give away the franchise? Well, if you can parlay the type of talent that San Francisco has in the organization off top of head, as I look it up, Helio Ramos, Joey Bart, Marco Luciano, seriously, folks, this is one of the deepest prospect pools in all of baseball. Hunter Bishop, Luis Matos. There's plenty to give up here if you want to go out and get a guy like Juan Soto. I don't think it'll happen, but that's the one place that makes a lot of sense for me. It's very Barry Bonds-esque of San Francisco to do. All right, gonna shift. We're halfway through. Hot hands. I just want to spotlight every week a couple guys, stars that are killing it, mid-tier players that are killing it, but then also some short-term helpers for your year-long league. So, who's doing well in the last week or two that might be on your waiver wire? Guys, I'll tell you, Joey Votto is absolutely on fire. I'm not going to even read you his stats because they changed. He homered again today, set a franchise record for 7 homers in 6 nights. The only player in Reds franchise history, the oldest team in the National League, to hit 6 homers over the course of 6 consecutive nights is Joey Votto. Third oldest player to hit 5 homers in 5 consecutive nights. Just phenomenal what he is doing. And I'll tell you, even, again, being a Cubs fan, seeing him trash talk a little bit after that whole incident with Baez and Garrett and all that was kind of cool because Votto doesn't normally do that. Now, Votto has more homers against the Cubs throughout his career than any other major league team. He's got 43 against the Cubs. No one else has more than 40. He's hitting .310 against the Cubs career. But here's the point. This year, he's hitting .423. And he's got now 7 homers in 10 games against the Cubs this year. Really impressive what Votto's doing at this age. I talked about him quite a bit. How about Austin Riley, guys? Here's another one who's on fire. He's hit .288 on the season, 19 homers, 49 runs, 56 RBIs. His last 15 games, though, he's hitting .345 with 6 homers, 10 runs, and 16 RBIs. That's a 54 homer, 162 RBI pace over the course of the season. Austin Riley is carrying the Braves offense right now. Him and Freddie Freeman. He's already set career highs in homers, runs, and RBIs. But Riley is truly having a breakout season. So I told you about – let's going to talk about Jorge Soler. I'm not going to. I want to talk about these short-term values. This helps more people, I feel like, because, you can pick up some of these guys. Dalton Varsho. Second in the majors in OPS over the last 15 days. Here's a guy who's catcher, outfield eligible. When he plays about half the time he hits in the leadoff spot. And let's be honest, he's 24 years old. So plenty of room to grow into that role for a team that, quite frankly, is going nowhere. Dalton Varsho, to me, is someone who can sustain his success over the last, 2 weeks anyway. Second in the majors in OPS. How about Harry Bader? Harrison Bader, fourth in the majors in OPS over the past 15 days. 1.257 OPS. For a team that's not doing well, St. Louis has a lot of things going for them. Dylan Carlson, Tyler O'Neill. Yadi Molina is going to play till he's 83 years old. Of course, you got Goldschmidt and Arenado. Harrison Bader might be the most underrated defensive player in the major leagues. And everybody's always kind of just assumed that that's what he is. He's just a defensive outfielder. Guys, he's hitting .293. He's got 9 homers and 6 stolen bases. Oh, and he missed a good chunk of the season with an injury. You're talking about a guy who all of a sudden in St. Louis has a hand up because he plays a position where defense is king. He's always going to play because of his defense in center field. Pizza's here. But second off, if he keeps doing what he's doing, he hit, I think, 5th or 6th last night. There's room for him to cut his own mold in that offense. He could be the leadoff hitter. He could be the 3 hitter. Probably not the 3 hitter, maybe the 2 hitter. He could be a 6 hitter. He could hit it in the middle of that lineup for a long time if he continues to produce. And that's a good young offense. Again, they need a shortstop. I'm not sold on Sosa behind DeJong. But a lot of their players in St. Louis, I really like what they're doing there. Losing Flaherty hurt them. Kyle Farmer, 6th in the majors in OPS over the last 15 days. Listen, I've talked a lot about the Reds over the last month. I'm going to continue talking about the Reds. Everybody on the Reds that I've talked about have turned a corner. We'll exclude Suarez. Votto, India. Stevenson's been a little cold. Kyle Farmer, 252 with 9 homers, 34 runs, 32 RBIs, and 2 stolen bases. Is the shortstop. Is he the sexiest player in the world? Absolutely not. But is he serviceable? If all of a sudden you need a shortstop? Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially in the short term. All right, guys. 2 quick season-long pickups, and then I'm going to jump off of here. First one, really like this move for the Mariners. He got a lot of kickback because, they sent 2 big relievers to a division rival. But I feel like getting Abraham Toro is exactly what the Mariners needed to do. Now he sees everyday playing time. He's just 24 years old. His season numbers don't look great. 218, 8 homers, 19 runs, 23 RBIs, 3 stolen bases. But again, he'll be playing every day in Seattle. 4 homers, 7 RBIs in the last 7 days. Toro is one of those guys that you have to pick up just because of opportunity. The other guy, like I said, is Tanner Houck. Chris Sale from the right-hand side. He should be in the rotation the rest of the season. The Red Sox were saving him for down the stretch. It's down the stretch. That's all the time I got for tonight. Next week, the OA is going to return. Thanks for listening to Chap's Fantasy Chat with Chappie. Check out all our other content and our seasonal DFS tools, as well as premium access to our staff and all your fantasy sports questions in the member-only Discord right here at drroto.com. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you guys next week. Good night.